I offer my respectful obeisances to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, to all the previous acharyas, and to all the assembled devotees. Vancha kalptarishcha kripa sindhavevajha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. I'm going to enter into evidence a pivotal statement by Krishna from the Bhagavad Gītā, which I'll read to you, along with the purport given by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And this comes in the 18th chapter at the 66th verse. And it is as follows. Sarva-dharmān parityajya mam ekam sharanam raja ahang tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishami ma shuchaha. Sarva-dharmān means all varieties of religion. Parityajya means abandoning. Mam, unto me. Ekam, only. Sharanam, for surrender. Vraja, go. Aham, I. Tvam, you. Sarva, all. Papebhya, from sinful reactions. Mokshayishami, will deliver. Ma, do not. Shuchaha, worry. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. Srila Prabhupada's purport. The Lord has described various kinds of knowledge and the processes of religion, knowledge of the Supreme Brahman, knowledge of the Supersoul, knowledge of the different types of orders and statuses of social life, knowledge of the renounced order of life, knowledge of non-attachment, sense and mind control, meditation, etc. He has described in so many different ways different types of religion. Now, in summarizing Bhagavad Gītā, the Lord says that Arjuna should give up all the processes that have been explained to him. He should simply surrender to Krishna. That surrender will save him from all kinds of sinful reactions, for the Lord personally promises to protect him. In the 7th chapter, it was said that only one who has become free from all sinful reactions can take to the worship of Lord Krishna. Thus, one may think that unless he is free from all sinful reactions, he cannot take to the surrendering process. To such doubts, it is here said that even if one is not free from all sinful reactions, simply by the process of surrendering to Sri Krishna, he is automatically freed. There is no need of strenuous effort to free oneself from sinful reactions. One should unhesitatingly accept Krishna as the supreme savior of all living entities. With faith and love, one should surrender unto him. The process of surrender to Krishna is described in the Hari Bhakti Vilas. Anakulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam rakshishya titi vishvaso goptritve varanam tata atmanishe pakarpanye shadvida sharanagati. According to the devotional process, one should simply accept such religious principles that will lead ultimately to the devotional service of the Lord. One may perform a particular occupational duty according to his position in the social order. But if by executing his duty one does not come to the point of Krishna consciousness, all his activities are in vain. Anything that does not lead to the perfectional stage of Krishna consciousness should be avoided. One should be confident that in all circumstances Krishna will protect him from all difficulties. There is no need of thinking how one should keep the body and soul together. Krishna will see to that. one should always think himself helpless and should consider Krishna the only basis for his progress in life. As soon as one seriously engages himself in devotional service to the Lord in full consciousness, at once he becomes freed from all contamination of material nature. There are different processes of religion and purificatory processes by cultivation of knowledge, meditation, in the mystic yoga system, etc. But one who surrenders unto Krishna does not have to execute so many methods. That simple surrender unto Krishna will save him from unnecessarily wasting time. One can thus make all progress at once and be freed from all sinful reactions. One should be attracted by the beautiful vision of Krishna. His name is Krishna because he is all attractive. One who becomes attracted by the beautiful, all-powerful, omnipotent vision of Krishna is fortunate. There are different kinds of transcendentalists. Some of them are attached to the impersonal Brahman vision. Some of them are attracted by the supersoul feature, etc. But one who is attracted to the personal feature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and above all, one who is attracted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as Krishna himself, is the most perfect transcendentalist. In other words, devotional service to Krishna in full consciousness is the most confidential part of knowledge. And this is the essence of the whole Bhagavad Gītā. Karma yogis, empiric philosophers, mystics and devotees are all called transcendentalists. But one who is a pure devotee is the best of all. The particular words used here, ma shuchaha, don't fear, don't hesitate, don't worry, are very significant. One may be perplexed as to how one can give up all kinds of religious forms and simply surrender to Krishna, but such worry is useless. And with that, there's a great opportunity. Prabhupada gave a scenario once that if a person comes into our assembly and declares it boldly to everyone that I will take care of all your affairs, one might think, well, how will this person take care of all my affairs? And can they take care of all my affairs? But if Krishna says it, then one should consider taking the offer, because Krishna is the source of everyone. What's more, he is the Supreme Controller. He has all opulences. He's our best friend and well-wisher. Everything belongs to him. And if one surrenders to Krishna, then Krishna can definitely take care of all our affairs. So what do you think?
Yes.
Yes.
If there's a place to sign up, wouldn't you want to sign up?
Yes.
And there are many ways in which the great devotees, acharyas, encourage us to take shelter of Krishna and to surrender unto him by mentioning the ways of good and bad fortune in this world and how they come to us. For instance, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Narada Muni, in speaking to Srila Vyasadeva, encouraging Srila Vyasadeva, his disciple, to encourage people to surrender to Krishna, says to him that just as inauspicious things come to us unsought. That is, we don't ask for them. Generally, we don't pray for bad things to come into our lives. Nonetheless, they come anyway. He says, similarly, the kinds of good fortune and gains we hope for in this world also come unsought. They're a product of our momentum from our previous activities in the material world. And they come in due course of time, whether we like them or not. And even gains come of their own accord, even if we don't ask for them. Kalena sarvatra gabira ramasa. He said this is because of the power of Krishna's memory. Krishna has an impeccable memory, and it's built into this world in such a way that whatever we've done ever, since a time immemorial, is recorded. Kalina sarvatra gabira rambasa. It's very deep. And it will come to pass, assuredly, good and bad. So Narada says, Tasyaiva heto prayateta kovido na labhyate yad brahmatam utar paryada. Don't endeavor to try to adjust that balance between good and bad. That is, most people try to reduce the bad things and increase the so-called good things. In the same vein, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, the idea that some things are bad and some things are good in this world, he calls manodharma. That is the religion of the mind. The mind invents the ideas of good and bad in this world, evidenced by the fact that the mind is, as a premise, notorious for accepting things as good and then thinking they're bad later. Have you ever witnessed such a switch where either you or someone else considered something good and then later thought that it was bad?
Yes.
Or how about vice versa? Thought something was bad and then you embrace it later as good.
Yes.
And Krishna mentions in the Bhagavad Gītā that the whole material world is categorically bad, in the sense that he says from the topmost planet in the material world down to the lowest, and that covers everything. All are places of misery for the soul. Abrahma bhuvana loka punar avartino Arjuna mamu peta tukonteya punar janma navidyate. This is in the 8th chapter where he's describing to Arjuna the ways that one may utilize one's life to prepare for leaving the material world. And as an encouragement, he says, the material world is not a world worth being attached to, because it's a cause of suffering. And just to rule out the possibility that one might have in one's mind that maybe there's some place in this material world that's good enough that I could stay and thrive and be happy. He says, no, from the topmost planet down to the lowest planet, all are places of misery wherein repeated birth and death take place. Therefore, Narada, in teaching Vyasadeva, says, Tasyaiva heto prayateta kovido. A kovido, a learned person, a person who's come to full knowledge, understands that he or she should use full energy to advance spiritually. And what if you neglect your duties in this world for the sake of Krishna consciousness? Narada anticipates that one might think this, but what will become of me? And in the next verse he says, Tyaktva swadharmam charanam bhujam harer bhajana pakvota patetito yadi yatra kvava bhadramu buddhamushikim kovarta apto bhajatam swadharmata. He said, if somebody hears Sarva-dharmān parityajya, hears Abrahma bhuvana loka punaravartinojana, hears tasyaiva hetu prayateta govido, and thinks, I'm going to do it. And they surrender to Krishna. But what if it turns out that they're not able to sustain their practice in Krishna consciousness? Why? Because they're apakva. Apakva means, pakva, you know the word paka? He's a paka mayavadi. Or a paka fruit, or a paka mango is the perfect mango, it's ripe. But apakva, somebody's apakva, they weren't ripe. Even though they had a sentiment, albeit spiritual, to surrender to Krishna, because they heard about it, so they tried. So he says, Tyakva swadharmam. They gave up their duty, their place in line here in the material world. And everyone has to line up. From the time they're born, everyone's rooting for them to get in the right line. Make sure you get the right education, make sure you get the right job. And those Vaishnavas who have already decided that their main purpose in life is to surrender to Krishna often give commentary about the ways in which they've been treated here in the material world, despite the fact that they gave their best efforts. Have we ever seen that someone gave a valiant effort but was not appreciated for their valiant effort?
Yes.
There was Mrs. Sharma, who came to Prabhupada in her later years. She had a glow in her eyes because she heard Prabhupada speaking about Sarva-dharmān parityajya, and she thought, yes, now's my time. And when she went back and told her family that I'd like to surrender to Krishna, and I found my spiritual master, they said, no, 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 no. You can't go. You stay and serve us more. This is not your place to leave us behind. And a great Vaishnava poet once said, lamenting this phenomena that in the material world no one ever feels fully satisfied with our service. Kamadinam katina katida palita durnideshas tesham jata mahina karuna natrapa nopashanti utsrijaita yarupate samprata labdabudis tamayata sharanamayaman niyam shvatma budhe. That the devotee thinks, after coming to full intelligence, that's called labdha buddhi, I've gained my intelligence, the Vaishnava says in this poem. In how many ways and for how long have I obeyed the bad masters? And who are the bad masters? My senses. Kam, krodh, lobh, mada, moha, matsarya, lust, anger, greed, envy. They never gave me anything, he said. I worked for them, I worked my fingers to the bone, and this is the thanks I get. They never gave me time off. They never even thanked me. No more. Utsrijai tamanta yarupate samprata labdha buddhis. Now that I've gained my intelligence and I've seen that I've wasted millions and millions and millions of lifetimes over eons, now I'm turning to Krishna. No mas, no more for the senses, now all for Krishna. Utsrijai tanata yarupate samprata labdha buddhis. Because I've gained my intelligence, now I'm surrendering to Krishna, and that's it, it's final. Narada says this is an intelligent person, a kavi, who's come to this conclusion that if you endeavor for advancement spiritually, every little thing you do is counted by Krishna and considered to be heroic. In fact, in the Gita, Krishna says, Neha bikramanashosti pratyavayo navidyate swalpam apyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. If someone does the tiniest service, makes the tiniest gesture towards him, it saves that person. What's more, we know Krishna's magnanimity. When Draupadi was being manhandled in the vicious assembly of the Kauravas who were trying to dishonor her, and she surrendered. At first, being a Kshatriya and having Kshatriya blood, she tried to fight them off. To no avail, until she put her arms in the air. And you know that time when you've had enough of the material world and you realize you can't go on your own and the only thing you can do is turn to God?
Yes.
She did that. And that's what Krishna is saying in this verse. Make that your life. At every moment, with every breath, with every mantra you chant. She put her arms in the air and she said, Hey Govinda!
Hey Govinda!
And then Krishna says, for her gesture of calling out to me in that helpless way, I can never repay her. On one side we have the very stingy world we live in. The senses demand so much, they feel entitled. Lust, anger, greed robs us of our peace, takes away our dignity, and gives us nothing in return. Whereas Krishna, he's the suhrit, the best friend. And when we offer anything to Krishna, with some sense of love, and Krishna accepts it. It goes on our eternal record and he never forgets it. He's always appreciative. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Yogendras, there are 9 Yogendras who meet Maharaj Nimi. They were traveling simply for the sake of distributing Krishna consciousness to others, and they happened upon the assembly of this king named Nimi, who was performing a karmakanda sacrifice, as kings often did, to enrich their kingdom and their people and themselves. And when the Naviyogendra, these sages, descended, everyone showed them respect. They stood up. The king stood up. In fact, this is the etiquette. When an advanced person comes into one's purview, one should stand up to show respect. Otherwise, our life airs become turbulent. In fact, we know from Romaharshan, he didn't stand up when Baladev came into the assembly at Naimisharanya, and he was punished for it. So Nimi stood up, all the attending priests stood up to greet the sages who descended into the arena of sacrifice, and even the fire stood up to greet them. And then the king, sensing that he was in the association of advanced devotees, began to ask questions. And the Naviyogendras, one after another, gave their advice about how one should take full advantage of the human form of life. I can say a few things about what they said.
Yes.
Shall I?
Yes.
One notable point they made sums up our conundrum in the material world and why we're here in the first place. And then also in the same verse says how we can reverse the situation we're in. Yogendra said, Bhayam dvitiya abhinibeshatasya ishan apetasya viparyayosmiti tanmaya yato buddha abjatam bhaktyayika yesham gurudeva tatma. Bhaya means fear, and syat means it arises. And he started by saying, fear arises when we see something separate from Krishna, when we have a separate interest from Krishna. Remember, we just read Krishna's statement in the Bhagavad Gītā and Prabhupāda's explanation where he said we should simply have Krishna's interest in mind. And here is Yogendra saying, Bhayam dvitiya. Dvi means two. There's one great cause in life and one purpose to life. But if we think there's another purpose, that's dvi, two things, not one. And in fact, in the Gita, Krishna says to make spiritual advancement, you should have one goal, not two or three or five or many. Vyavasayatmika buddhir ekeha kurunandana bahu shaka hinantascha buddhayo vyavasayinam. Krishna says, to make advancement in spiritual life, your attention should be one-pointed. Ek, not dvi. One-pointed on making spiritual advancement by surrendering to Krishna. So, Yogendra says, Bhayam dvitiya abhinibeshata. When we're absorbed, abhinibeshata means to be absorbed in scrolling. That's a good description of abhinibeshata, because in this context, because it means to be absorbed in something that's not Krishna. Randomly looking at images, not just on your phone, but anywhere in the world, and not seeing their connection to Krishna is abhinibeshata. And when we forget Krishna for the sake of titillating the senses and looking at the world as a place where I can feel stimulated and happy, then fear arises. Then he said, Ishad apetasya viparyosmiti. We get into a reversed condition of life. Apetasya means we've turned our face away from Isha. Who's Isha? Ishvara Parama Krishna, Sakchet Ananda Vigraha, Anadi Radha Govinda, Sarva-dharmān. Krishna's Isha. Nobody else is. Or Isha Vasyamidang Sarvam. Tena Tyaktena Bunjita. Everybody's saying it. There's one Supreme Isha. He owns everything, he controls everything. And when we turn away from Isha, Ishad apetasya, viparyo means our attitude or our vision of life is reversed. Smriti, our intelligence, becomes backwards. And instead of being a supporter of Krishna, instead of being a lover of Krishna and serving Krishna, then I think my real interest is something else. This is the reason that we suffer. And the antidote, he then says, Tanmayata Buddha Abhajetvam. We're captured by the Lord's potency for illusion. which is called Maya. It has a certain potency to it, you got to admit. Right?
Yes.
But when one becomes intelligent, just as we heard in the last verse, or one of the previous verses, Labdha Buddhi, one gains one's intelligence. Here, he says, Janmayato Buddha. When you become Buddha, when you're enlightened with what the real purpose of life is. Bhaktyayika Yesham said, Guru Devatatma, you should give your one-pointed attention to Krishna through a spiritual master whom you consider your worshipful deity and your life and soul. That's how to come back into alignment with our real eternal nature and be happy, is to give our full attention to Krishna. And in this purport, we find that surrender is not something amorphous or unreasonable, but it's a process. And the process has 6 steps. The first step is to accept those things that are favorable for devotional service. There are 64 items of devotional service, and out of those 64, there are 5 that are most potent. And if you attend to those 5, even if you don't have faith in them, and only if you're a little bit connected to them, you'll have success. Is that intriguing?
Yes.
But not very much. It's only a little bit intriguing. I guess there's no such thing as being a little bit intrigued. Those 5 are: make a list, worshiping the deity, which we've been doing all day today, associating with devotees, living in a holy place, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam in the association of like-minded devotees who are more advanced than oneself. And what are we missing? Chant Hare Kṛṣṇa. Those are the 5. And if you're going to pick one out of the 5, which one do you think you should pick? Chant Hare Kṛṣṇa. As from chanting Hare Kṛṣṇa, you can complete all of the other processes. And one should then winnow out those aspects of one's life that are unfavorable to Krishna. That means you have to make a list. If you've ever made a to-do list, you can add to it a not-to-do list. And that's the number 2 point of surrender. Make a not-to-do list. Do you have one in your pocket? Is it out in the car? Maybe it's in your desk somewhere. Make a list of not to do. Those are things that you find that are not favorable to your execution of these 5 items. And if you put those on your list and then avoid them, that's surrender to Krishna. And if you already have a list of those things that are favorable, and if you do those, that's surrender to Krishna. The next item is that one should consider very carefully of how one is being maintained. For instance, right now, every one of us has a beating heart. And until I mentioned it, you didn't even think of it because it goes on automatically. How much goes on automatically in our life? Consider your digestion. In the Gita, Krishna says, Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva. I'm your fire of digestion. You don't notice it until it is delayed somehow, or it is not as strong as usual, or it stops. But every aspect of our life is going on in a way that is mysterious to us. But in the Gita, Krishna says, that's me, I'm maintaining you. If you can extend that to every part of your life, you may see that whatever we have is being provided to us by Krishna. If you consider that Krishna is my maintainer, and then consider that he's my only protector, Prahlad Maharaj says, Balasya neha sharanam pitaro nashingha nartasya chagavama danvati majato now taptasya tat pratibidirya ihanja cheshtas tavad vibo tanubhutam tvarupekshitanam. That parents can't save their children. True or false? A boat on water cannot save a drowning man. True or false? Or medicine can't save a patient. True or false? It's both true and false. Because parents, they may do something to save their children. They have to. If you see a person drowning on the water and you have a boat and you can go try to save him, you have to go try to save him. Maybe you can save him. And when you go to the doctor for a procedure, what do they tell you? We'll do our best. And by the way, if we accidentally kill you for any reason, don't mind. Because what else can they say? And what else can anybody say? Because as Prahlad Maharaj very soberly notes, we'll do our best in this world, but we're helpless without Krishna unless he sanctions it. So this element of the surrender process means to develop this clear-headed idea that Krishna is my only protector. The next limb of surrender is to be humble. Humility means to consider that whatever I do is done through me. Whether I win an Olympic medal or whether I'm able to cook a Rajbhog offering for the Lord, or whether I'm able to chant 16 rounds, I'm doing it only by Krishna's power. After all, we know Arjuna, the great hero, Kurukshetra, later noticed that he had lost his power. And he prayed to Krishna to realign himself with his teachings in the Bhagavad Gītā. So our humility comes in recognizing that our only hope is Krishna. Our only friend is Krishna. Our only guidance comes from Krishna. And our ability to do anything is Krishna's ability vested in us. And the sixth element of surrender is to consider that everything I have, everything I am, belongs to Krishna, not to me. Manasa deho geho yo kichumor. Bhaktivinoda Thakur sings in a song of surrender. In fact, it's about Atma Nivedanam that he sings, and he says, everything I am, everything I own, my family, my body, my house, it all belongs to you, Krishna. It's not mine. And then he says, even my soul doesn't belong to me. We're Prakriti, not Purusha. And therefore, Krishna, I admit that even I don't belong to myself. I only belong to you. That's Atma Nivedanam. These are the 6 items of cultivation of Sharanagati, or taking deeper and deeper shelter of Krishna. And Jīva Goswāmī says that this verse, Sarva-dharmān parityajya, is the solace of all devotees. And they think about it again and again, how Krishna, by speaking to Arjuna, this verse saved the whole world. And if you ever feel left out, frustrated, abused, confused, angry with your lot in life, consider this verse. And consider Draupadi putting her hands high in the air and say, "Hey Govinda." This is the sum and substance of the teachings of the Bhagavad Gītā, is to seriously consider surrendering completely to Krishna. We may feel, as Prabhupada mentioned in the purport, that how might I do this? But he says, such a consideration is useless, just do it. And if you can't do it, as my mom used to tell me, why don't you sit there and think about it? And it's an amazing experience if you think about this verse. If you sit down to chant Hare Kṛṣṇa and then you think, Sarva-dharmān parityajya, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I'm helpless. He's offering to handle all my affairs. What if I really did surrender? What if I just let go of every conception of helping myself and I simply thought, Krishna, I leave it all to you. I'm sold out 100% to you, and I'll just live my life like that from now on. If you just think about it, you'll feel exhilarated. You might not even do it in that very second, but thinking about it and doing it is almost exactly the same thing. Therefore, Krishna saved us. He saved the whole world just by speaking this verse. And if you can put it in a locket around your neck, if you can imprint it on your consciousness and breathe it at every moment and think, my only solace in life is Krishna speaking this verse and offering me an opportunity to accept him wholly and solely as my maintainer, protector, and the soul of my soul. That's where real happiness will come from. Let's see if there's any comments or questions or immediate challenges. Okay, 1, 2, 3.
Hare Kṛṣṇa. It's off. Hare Kṛṣṇa.
Hare Kṛṣṇa,
Hare Kṛṣṇa. No. Hare Kṛṣṇa. It's on. Hare Kṛṣṇa. No. Hare Kṛṣṇa, Guru Maharaj. So there's a couple of reflections and a couple of questions, and one is merged in with a bit of the confession as
Nanda,
well.
can you hear him?
Can you hear?
Can't hear anything.
Ah, okay. Hare Kṛṣṇa.
Just say it to me and I'll repeat it until they fix it. Keep
Okay.
the microphone there. Say it to me.
Yeah.
When it's fixed, then it's fixed. Otherwise, I'll repeat it.
Okay.
So he has a couple of observations and a question or two.
Yeah, and also one confession.
And also one confession.
Yeah.
No complaints, just a confession.
Okay. So, is it working? Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. Get there with technology. Okay. So I really.
No. Just say it to
Is
me.
it?
It's not
Okay.
working.
It's not working. Okay, I'll just keep on holding it anyway. So I really liked how you were talking about how Krishna is our.
He liked, Nanda, how I was talking about Krishna
being our only friend,
Being our only friend.
and guide,
and guide.
and that he'll save us from unnecessarily wasting our time.
And he'll save us from unnecessarily wasting our time.
And I thought that was quite nice because
He thought it was quite nice.
I find myself wasting a lot of time
He
usually.
finds himself wasting a lot of time.
Also, I liked how you narrated the story of how you know, that personality didn't stand up, and you were saying that as a result, the life airs would be taken away.
I like the description of the etiquette of standing up when an advanced person approaches, because if you don't, then your life airs become disturbed.
And how we're often making mistakes.
And how we often make mistakes.
And you were also talking about how every one of us has a beating heart as well.
And I talked about how every one of us has a beating heart.
And so my confession is that I forgot to put the water bottle next to your chair.
He confesses that he forgot to put the water bottle next to my chair.
It's
now
actually
I'm feeling thirsty too.
It's actually inside your bag, Guru Maharaj. So I do apologize for that. But also, I was wondering, you know, it talks about how we should do it with faith and love. But
we should do it with faith and love.
But what if we don't have any faith or love?
What if you don't have any faith or love?
So how do we develop that?
When we don't have faith and love, we have to use our intelligence. In the Bhagavad Gītā, Krishna says, Indriyani prayanyahur indriyebhya panamanaha manasastu para buddhir yogudhe paratastu sa. Lowest of all are the senses. Above the senses is the mind. Above the mind is the intelligence. And above the intelligence is the soul. And then he says, Evam buddhi param buddhva samstabhyatmanamatmana jahi shatram mahabaho kama rupa durasada. He said, in the beginning you should use your intellect to defeat the lower self. The lower self, the mind, for instance, is known to have fearsome, godlike powers over us. And since a time immemorial, it's been neurotically engaged in binding us to the material world. Therefore, you have to develop your intelligence in the beginning. And when the intelligence is developed, it takes on a special quality, vivek, which means that it becomes highly discriminatory about what's the right thing, what's the wrong thing to do. One can purify the intelligence by reading the Bhagavad Gītā. This is the purpose of Krishna speaking so succinctly yet eloquently the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, is to give all human beings the opportunity to purify their intelligence. When we read the Bhagavad Gītā, we hear Krishna's voice speaking to us in a reasonable way. He's not fanatical. He's not frenetic. He's plodding, and he gives us every reason to introspect and decide for ourselves to do the right thing. And when our intelligence becomes so keen from reading the Bhagavad Gītā every day, then even if we don't have complete faith, our faith may be weak, and we may not have love, but we'll have a keen sense of how to move in the world based on what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gītā. And this is foundational to our spiritual practice, is to have this as a place to stand and know how to interact with the world in an enlightened way. So I therefore recommend what Prabhupada recommended, which is to read the Bhagavad Gītā every day. And not just to know the verses, to re-quote them, or to teach them in a class somewhere, but to edify oneself, and especially one's intelligence. And after all, Krishna says at the end of the Bhagavad Gītā, one who studies this sacred dialogue between myself and Arjuna purifies his or her intellect. And this is the most valuable asset of the human being. Squirrels don't have an intellect like we have, and neither do fish, birds, or any of the other species of life. That's our superpower. But that superpower is wasted by engaging it to see how to manipulate the material world. It entangles us more. It's called duskriti. Kriti means to do something well, but Duskriti means to do bad stuff really well. And that's what the world's on to now. Figuring out how to do really stupid, bad stuff really well. So we want Sukriti. And you can only get that from Krishna's words in the Bhagavad Gītā. That's why it's the most important book that we have. And if we carried it around as much as we carried our phone around, we would have a very developed intelligence. If you referred to your Bhagavad Gītā as much as you refer to your social media feed, you'd be brilliant by now, even if it was only over the last few weeks. So take advantage of Bhagavad Gītā. Install it on your phone as the only app that you have. Carry it with you. Keep the book by your bedside. Don't keep your phone by your head when you sleep. Keep your Bhagavad Gītā by your head when you sleep. When you get in the car, make sure you have a Bhagavad Gītā. When you go to the bank, make sure you have the Bhagavad Gītā. Because if you have to stand in line, what if you were to read for 5 minutes from the Bhagavad Gītā, rather than standing around like everybody else thinking, when's this line going to move? You can instead think, I could go back to Godhead in the next 5 minutes. And thank you for taking so long having that conversation with that person who just won't finish. So that's what Bhagavad Gītā is for, and Krishna saved the whole world by speaking to Arjuna, and that includes every one of us. Devarata Prabhu.
I was just thinking, as you were giving your...
He was just thinking as I was giving my
explanation
of
Jīva Goswāmī's commentary on this in the Bhagavad Sandarbha.
Sandarbha.
Bhakti Sandarbha.
Bhakti Sandarbha.
And he explains that of all the limbs of surrender, the primary characteristic is accepting Krishna as my maintainer.
The primary characteristic that's important is accepting Krishna as my maintainer.
And when you were explaining specifically the physiological process of how...
When I was talking about the theological process.
No, physiological
process.
Of our heart beating. I was just thinking how this explanation is such a natural response.
He was thinking how this explanation is a natural response
to that self-observation of how we are being maintained. So I was just appreciating that it's surrender is not sentimental. It's not jumping off a cliff. It's not jumping off a cliff. But it's a natural psychological response the living entity should have.
Psychological response
that we should have when we understand that Krishna is maintaining us.
That's beautiful. If you've ever observed what a finely tuned instrument the human body is, if you get a little cut, it heals on its own. Of course, you might put a little antiseptic or irrigate the cut, but it still grows back, harkens back to E.T., the extraterrestrial. And he used to touch with his finger. It's before your time, you wouldn't know this. Touch with his finger, and he'd heal people, and everyone thought this is a miracle. But it's already built into the body. It heals itself. And Jīva Goswāmī points out to Parikshit Maharaj in the beginning of the Bhagavatam about the magnanimity of the trees. They provide fruits. Fruits come complete with a little starter kit for another orchard. Who thought of that one? How is it that water gets distilled and comes down in the form of rain through streams and so forth? So self-observation and noticing how maintenance is going on at every second by the Supreme Controller. Something that other introspective people have noticed as well. If you have read any of the writings of some of the transcendentalists, Thoreau, Emerson, on Walden Pond, going away, just noticing how your in a universe that's perfectly ordered, going out to the forest and noticing how one tree falls and it becomes fodder for other trees to grow. Everything's in order in this universe. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vishishyate. There's a completeness to everything because it's all Krishna's energy. Even what we consider to be anomalies in this world have their place. And they all fit in somewhere in the complete universe. Thank you, Prabhu. Yes, it was 1, 2, 3, right? I think our team's diligently working on fixing those microphones. May require calling Ramananda Saka in California and waking him up.
Hare Kṛṣṇa. Hare Kṛṣṇa.
My question is, where...
Hare Krishna.
So my question is there a fine line between spiritual bypass and fully surrendering to Krishna? Is there an irresponsible element in it? And have in the past devotees prematurely or irresponsibly done that?
Yes. And now I lost mine. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. In the Gita, Krishna says, Yukta hara viharasya, yukta chestasya karmasu, yukta swapna babodasya, yogo bhavati dukkhaha. You should live a balanced life. And don't eat too much and don't eat too little. Don't sleep too much and don't sleep too little. Don't recreate too much and don't recreate too little. In the Bhagavatam, he also tells Uddhava, Sve sve adhikarya nishta saguna parikirtita. Viparya tu doshasya. He said, if you can ascertain what level of devotional service you can practice at the time being, and you adhere to that, it's a good quality. And he said, if you imitate others and try to practice devotional service at a level that you're not ready for, then it's a fault. Sometimes, as Narada said, in youthful enthusiasm, people take to devotional service at a level they cannot sustain. But it's Narada Muni's opinion, better that than you didn't start at all. It says, bhajana pakvo tatet poto yadi. Patet means to fall down again. You started, you were immature, and you fell down. He said to Vyasadeva, in making a strong point to Vyasadeva, who wrote extensively about how to be balanced in this world and work in such a way that demigods are pleased, everyone's happy. There are so many literatures that talk about achieving success in your life. But Narada Muni's confronting him and he said, forget all that stuff. People are going to gravitate towards comfort in their life and they're going to take advantage of the loopholes. Just tell them to surrender. Sava-dharmān charanam bhujami. He says, so what if they gave up their job prematurely? And in an immature attempt, they tried to surrender to Krishna and they fell back down again. He said, better that than they got everything else right and they forgot to surrender to Krishna. However, there are balancing statements throughout the Shastra, I named a couple of them, where Krishna advocates taking guidance so that you can take a plodding, step-by-step approach to devotional service. And in the early days of our Krishna consciousness movement, in youthful enthusiasm, many of us tried to imitate devotees who are much more advanced. And it wasn't sustainable. But it doesn't mean that it was a failure either, because youthful enthusiasm is what it is. And it's not that you can take a pill and become mature. Sometimes you have to make a lot of mistakes. And that's how you become mature, by correcting them over time and coming into a balanced state. So looking back at our movement, people could have been overzealous at certain times, and there could have been and are repercussions for that. But what could be done? One thing is that there's a lot more mature people around now, having gone through that. And it is important to, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, approach spiritual advancement in the same way you would climbing a ladder. He gives this example in the Krishna Chaitanya Shikshamrita. And he says that when you climb a ladder, if you run up the ladder, I want to see what that looks like. If you run up the ladder too quickly, you could miss a rung and you could slip back and fall. And if you are timid in climbing the ladder and don't take any risks to move to the next level, he said, then you won't make any advancement. So he said you should be thoughtful, find out when your foot is stable, sense when your foot is stable, and then take the next step. So it's also not good to build into one's doctrine of life that don't go forward, because after all, so many people have fallen down. Or advanced devotional services for others, it's not for me. Or don't take any chances, because what if I fall back down again? We should take reasonable risks. Even economically speaking, if you don't take any risks, you don't get ahead, right? Only one person said yes.
Yes.
But you should take measured risks. So maturity comes from correcting mistakes. We should be increasingly bolder as we get older. I didn't intend that to sound sing-songy. But I feel a bumper sticker coming on with that one. Get bolder as you get older, because statistically, according to actuary charts, you probably have a shortened lifespan the older you get. And so the system is meant for taking more and more risks progressively as you age. You should become more inclined towards surrender. Early days can be excusable because you have this inclination to build a nest and make sure it's feathered properly, and lots of attachments. But as we get older, we shouldn't become like Dhritarashtra, whose condition was lamentable. And even at the end, Vidura saved him as much as he could. But it's not seemly. It's unseemly to waste one's life and not take bolder and bolder steps as one moves forward. That was a really convoluted, long answer, but I had to think about it. Because as usual, it has to be balanced. Yes, of course, there have been people who are overzealous and done things that seem quite crazy. At the same time, many of them have learned from that, and also we've all learned from that. So be balanced and take risks to advance in devotional service. Let's sing a bhajan, unless there was one more question. Yes? Okay. I forgot what time we were ending. It's probably like in 5 minutes, right?
Yeah, at 5:40 we were thinking to start the Damodar Astakam as the...
Okay. All right, just, I won't give long answers. Just ask a question or make a point. Who's next? Honorable Gopal, did you have your hand? Oh, okay, sorry.
He has a question.
I'm going to see if I can figure it out. Hare Kṛṣṇa.
Hare Kṛṣṇa Maharaj. So it's very nice explanation you give about keeping the duty, keeping a balance in life. And looking back to my life, when I was young, I was serving different service to Krishna. Later on, when you get older and you get retired, I'm over 60 now, you are more strong serving Krishna. However, things happen and then you go down. Your Krishna consciousness goes down. You find difficult. How do you find your strength to continue in that case when you feel down and weak? How you go back to strength? Because like when you're retired, you don't have much association. Like for example, when you are the youth, they have Pandavasena, for example. Association is stronger. So what do you do in that case, like to get stronger? Like for example, I go with Sankirtan with these wonderful brahmacharis, and that gives me strength. Could you give me an advice to keep my strength for the long term?
I recommend...
it's not easy, but...
Not easy.
Yeah.
Thank you for such an important and relevant question. I would recommend going on a yatra and coming to maybe like Jaipur, spending a whole morning chanting japa, seeing deities, going from temple to temple. And what you're doing now. It's inevitable that anything that we practice on a regular basis, we could take for granted. Krishna says it in the Bhagavatam to Uddhava. He said sometimes people live by the Ganges and then they go somewhere else to take bath because they think, oh, it's the Ganges, it's right here. It's a psychological condition of people. And even monks have written about how they practice, well, I'll just say it like this, even monks have midlife crises. And so you have to try to stimulate your practice by being inventive. Reach out and get good association. Or do things that maybe you've not done before, like learn how to put the deities to rest at night, or learn how to cook something for Krishna. My father was in university. He worked on the side for repertory theater. And repertory theater means the same play goes over and over again. And he told me that the producer for a particular play used to tell the players to come on stage off cue and to give the wrong lines to the other players. Because after so many years of doing the same play, they get used to it and it becomes boring. So he told them, mix it up and make it edgy. And so we should also do that. Do things that are risky for Krishna. One of the main reasons that going out on book distribution is so effective is because it's always risky. Not risking life and limb, because at least not in the countries that most of us are used to, is it that dangerous physically. But it's a challenge to our ego, which is the biggest challenge of all, to go out and interact with people and try to give them Krishna consciousness. Tends to keep things edgy, to go out on book distribution. That's why Prabhupada recommended it for everybody. And doing preaching work in general challenges us. So those things are helpful. And coming on yatra, you have every right when you're over 60 to just tell whomever you have to tell that, look, I'm going on yatra. Try it for 3 months. Go for 3 months. And try to go to as many holy places as you can. And try there, just take prasad from the temples. You can go to Tirupati and just take some tamarind rice. And go to Triplicane, the Radhapartasarthi Mandir in what used to be called Madras, now Chennai. They give you idli about this big with peppercorns in it. Vidura did it. Balaram did it. Nityananda did it. And I know some devotees, when things weren't going their way, and it was obviously they weren't going to go their way, they joined the parityajya. And nobody heard from them for about a year. It's like, where's such and such? Like, I have no idea. And they just got off the grid and just did a different thing. So, mix it up, take chances, be a little edgy, and keep coming on yatras, and go on book distribution. Because from what I remember when we went out together, you're one of the biggest book distributors I've ever met. He did huge. First day he was out there. So try that, Hare Kṛṣṇa. You know, we need to have a little bit of a few minutes of reflection of how it was for you on the book distribution today. Does anybody have any reflections of what it was like?
I haven't done much distribution before, but the lollipop trick and not saying a word is the best.
Hello. So what did it feel like out there? How did you like it?
I loved it because I didn't have to talk, and that
Yeah.
and people just read the Kush Dan Do or the English donation.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just fantastic.
It can be a little ego effacing because you think, the less I talk, the better I do. Thank you. Who else has a reflection for how it was on book distribution?
Hare Kṛṣṇa Guru Maharaj, I thought I'd test myself by approaching, there's an RAF base just as we walked back from the temple. So I noticed someone coming out, so I went in there and a soldier came out with a gun. So I tried it on him and he gave me a huge donation and took a book. It was unbelievable.
Hey. Now we're going to see everybody hitting the bass up there. Okay, we'll take a couple more. And remember, if you don't like the news, go out and make some of your own.
Hare Kṛṣṇa Maharaj, my reflection is, I distribute for 2 days, but my reflection is for the second day, which is today. So my reflection is to make sure you know what is in the back, because I met one local person. He was in a rickshaw. I gave a book, and the book was in English. I don't know what kind of books, what languages we had until now. So I gave the book, and he was keep telling Tamil or something like that, and I was like keep showing the card. And actually, after I walk out, I realized, oh, I give an English book. He was telling me, give me Hindi or something in a different language. So then I checked the back, and I find out, oh, I have 5 books in English, 5 books in Hindi. I should give one in Hindi. So that's my reflection. You should know what you have, so you can give a better service.
Live and learn. Okay, one last one.
Hare Kṛṣṇa Maharaj, Dalvat Pranam. I did my book distribution over 2 days, and both days I was so lucky that all my books got sold. I mean, not sold, but all
it
my
happened
books
by chance, right?
all my books, just by Krishna's mercy, taken by people that I wouldn't even imagine that they would be interested in. So I could see that we are not doing anything when we are doing book distribution. It's just a pure mercy of Guru and Gauranga playing the role in the background. And just this, I think yesterday when we were just at the temple, the priest of Radha Madhav temple, as I saw that all people were just given the books, I thought to, approach him. So I just went to him and asked him, just follow the trick. Just showed him the card, just gave the lollipop and the sticker, and he was so happy. He was literally, waiting for us to go and ask him, and he gave me, the fat, the donation. So thank you for everything.
So that's the lesson takeaway for today. What's everybody doing out there right now? They're just waiting for us. They're looking out their windows down the road, Prabhupada said in his poem he wrote before he came to America. It's called Vrindavani Bhajan. And they're wondering, when are Nitai and Gaur going to come to my house and save me? And so we should have that in mind, that that's what people are doing, that's what they're waiting for.